Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live, and today I'm going to show you how I made a card, a birthday card, with the framed Florets stamp set bundle, which is an upcoming one. This bundle is actually going to be in January to June 2022 or 2023. Good heavens, I don't even know what year it is. January to June 2023 catalog, Stampin' Up! Mini catalog, and they've done a little early release on it, so we can pre-order it. Demonstrators can pre-order it this month, and it'll be available for customers to order starting next month. And I'll go through all of it in a second, but there's some pretty paper and gems and things that go with it. So, but anyway, this is the card we're going to be making today. It's a pretty quick and easy one, mostly used, just kind of borrowed a lot from the designer series paper and let that do a lot of the work on the card, and then added a little sentiment, a couple die cuts, and it was all done. So. All right, so this is the stamp set. So we've got the framed floret stamp set, which again, this one is going to be in the next mini catalog, the January to June 2023 mini. So it'll be available for customers to start ordering on November 1st. Or like I said, if you're able to sneak in and join as a demonstrator this month, you can actually add all these pretty things as part of your starter kit. So hang on, we'll talk more about that in a second too. So hey Karen, glad you're sneaking in from work. so this is the stamp set. Again, it's got some good general sentiments in it. Love that it's got the mixed fonts in it, pretty floral images that you can either stamp and cut out or stamp and color and cut out or whatever you want to do with them. Hey Mary Ellen, glad you're joining. And then there are these beautiful dies that coordinate with it. So thankfully, Stampin' Up! Is trying out a new naming thing, which I love. They're calling the stamp sets and dies the same name, so that hopefully when you're looking in the catalog and looking for things in the online store and you type in framed florets, you'll be able to find all of the stuff. So hopefully it'll be a little easier moving forward. Hey Kiko, thanks for joining. So the dies here, they're open dies, open ovals that fit around the sentiments. And then there are some kind of detailed dies for branches and leaves, and then there are these larger open dies that will cut out all of the little stamped images here in your stamp set as well. The designer series paper is called Fitting Florets, and actually this die will this die will cut out some of the flowers on one of the designer series papers in there. So it's awesome. I am so glad that they finally named them the same thing, because I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times, and I always say the names wrong. I get them backwards or whatever. So I'm so glad. Framed Florets, see there I'm doing it, Fitting Florets designer paper. I'm so glad that they're finally changing that. So, all right, so that is the stamp set and the die set. One other thing that we're going to be using on the card today is this little scallop die from the Border Basics Borders. I see that's another one that I can't ever remember which way around it goes. It's the border dies. And they're basic, and I can't remember whether it's Border Basics or Basic Borders. I think it's Basic Borders. So, hey Jean, thanks for hopping in to listen to me rambling and carrying on. All right, so I used this die, and I'll show you actually how I did the die cut on here and how I did the framing around this. I really cheated badly, so I'll show you in a second how I did all that. So hey Penny, thanks for joining. A couple things to know. Stampin' Up! Has done a clearance rack refresh today. Started this morning. Last time I checked, I haven't peeked at it in a little while. I think all the stuff was still on it. So get out there, get shopping, get some great deals. The stuff is up to 60% off. When I saw it this morning, there were a lot of designer papers out there, even some Christmas ones, so go take a peek. So if you're watching the video and haven't seen the clearance rack yet, go to the clearance rack and get your shopping done and come back to this later. So, all right, so definitely get that done, take a peek at that. And then I was talking about the starter kit. So Stampin' Up! Does have an awesome promotion during the month of October through the end of the month. If you join as a demonstrator, you get to pick an extra $30 worth of free stuff with your starter kit. So normally the starter kit is $99, and you get to pick $125. This month, you still pay $99, but you get to pick $155 worth of stuff, which is a really awesome deal. So take a peek at it. If you're not a demonstrator, it's a really good time to join, because you get to pick whatever you want for your starter kit. Hey, Carol, thanks for joining. Now, starter kits ship for free, so that's a big 11% discount already. And you're also going to get packs of catalogs, and you're going to get a free paper pumpkin in with it and a few business supplies. So you don't have to do this as a business if you don't want to. You can just join and get the discount for yourself, which is awesome. Once you join, you get at least a 20% discount on all of your orders that you place as a demonstrator. So let me know if you have questions about this. I'd love to have you come join our team. Again, it's a really good deal. And speaking of things you can add to your starter kit, so the fitting florets that we're using today, all of these products you can actually add to your starter kit if you might be interested in joining. So the fitting florets collection is $97.50. So if you added that in, you would still have 55, 57, I don't know, I'm not very good. Math on the fly is not my thing. So around $57, I think, to still spend on other Stampin' Up! Goodies. So this actually is the bundle that we already talked about. So there's the framed florets stamp set and the coordinating framed florets dies that you can get as a bundle and save 10%. Then we have the gold adhesive back swirls. These are only available while supplies last, beginning November 1st and running through January 4th. This bundle will carry over into the next mini catalog. So this one will be around for a little while. These three things will not. The framed and festive stamp set is a Christmas stamp set that coordinates with the dies. So the sentiments in here work perfectly inside the dies. So they're awesome. And then they have the Fitting Florets 12 by 12 Designer Series paper, which is a beautiful pack of paper. Again, we use some of it here on the card today. This one in here is actually kind of Christmassy looking. So you can get the framed and festive stamp set and use this pretty Designer Series paper and make some awesome Christmas cards. So I have one of those out on my blog too. So if you go looking for that, you can find it. So hey, Marilyn, thanks for joining. All right, so let me know if you have questions on that. Again, these items can be added as part of your starter kit, so yay. All right, let's get going doing a little stamping here. All right, I have got a piece of soft succulent cardstock. My original card, as per my normal, is a top fold, but I do like to, if I have a piece of paper that I can cut in a side fold or a book fold card, I try to show you that too, because most of the designs that I do will work with either type of card base. So this one is cut to 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. This one is cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5.5 across the top. So whatever your preferred card base is, this one will work for it. So using a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue, and I'm just going to put that all around the card front and try not to stick my sleeves in it or my fingers, which I am notorious for doing. And then the back side, I figured I'd show you that before I stick it down. So this is the back side. I love the colors in this paper. And again, this is all part of the Fitting Florets Designer Series paper pack. And I love that Stampin' Up! Is usually for most of their designer paper packs does one side where it's a little bit more kind of graphic or brighter, I don't know, busier designs maybe is the word. And then the opposite side is usually something a little more subtle like this, which I absolutely love. I use tons of the more subtle papers on my cards rather than, I don't know, the busy ones. It depends, because this one with the flowers is pretty busy. But I don't usually use two of those together. Usually I use one of the more subtles and a little busier one on top, or the other way around. All right, so I got that stuck down, and the reason I use the liquid glue is probably just what you saw. It gives me a second to make sure everything is in place where I want it to be, and I can smoosh it around as needed before it's stuck down for good. All right, so let me show you the Lazy Amy trick for adding the scallop border underneath here. And I do this with almost all of the scallop borders that I do, because I don't know, I have a terrible time getting things to cut straight and whatever. So if I measure this piece of cardstock and it's perfect and everything will fit, and then I die cut it and then it ends up all crookedy crazy, and then I'm mad because I've just ruined the whole piece of cardstock. So what I do instead is the Lazy Amy method of die cutting, which is I get my die, and this one actually is not as wide. You'll see the designer paper. So it's a little, it won't cut straight all the way across the length that I need it to be, but it didn't matter because my sentiment covered it up anyway. But normally, even with a straight scallop die, I still do the same thing where I cut it ahead of time like this, cut the little panel, and then I glue it to the bottom, and then cut a larger panel and glue it to the top, and then nobody can see it because it's all hidden. But that's my lazy way of doing die cutting. So all right, so I've got this is about 3/4 of an inch by about 3 inches wide, I think. And the only thing that I'm going to sort of pay attention to is to make sure that my scallops are straight across on the left hand side of it when I die cut it. That's the main thing, again, that I want to make sure that I don't have a loop up, if that makes sense, or a little hop up. So I just want to make sure that I run it through the die cutting machine like this. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to go do that right now while you're hanging out here. Hey, Catherine, thanks for joining. So I'll be off screen for just a second. Try not to wiggle you too much and make you seasick with my die cutting machine. All right, so let's see if I can get this to cut and get the die in the right place. Maybe. All right. So there we go. And again, it can, oh, see, and I tell you, I'm not going to make you seasick, and then I crash my knee right into the edge of the table and make you seasick anyway. So it's going to be one of those days, I think. All right. So I have my little piece that I have die cut here, which has got the edge up. And again, just going to make sure that this goes under this side of the paper. And I don't know if there's a right side up or an upside down. I feel like that's more right side up. So we'll go with that. And this is about 3.5 inches by about 4 inches. So 3.5 wide by 4 inches tall. And I'm going to go do a little Stampin' Seal. Yeah, there we go. Get it rolling. Stampin' Seal across here. And then I'm just going to line this up nicely with the edge of my cardstock over here. And try to get it straight across. And again, it doesn't matter that it looks all sorts of crazy on this side because the sentiment's going to cover it up anyway. So I can design it, design my card to work that way. All right. So now I've got a piece of polished pink. And I guess I didn't even tell you what color I was using, did I? So this is polished pink cardstock. And I have it cut to, maybe, it's an odd cut. So it is 3 9/16 wide. And it's about 3 inches tall. And again, you could make it a little bit longer if you wanted to. But again, this was all going to be covered by my sentiment, so I didn't care that much that there's a little gap in here. All right, so 3 9/16. And the reason for the weird measurement on it, normally I go 1/8 of an inch wider when I'm doing my edges, or when I'm doing my layering layering. But because this edge is going to be lined up even with the edge of my designer series paper, I had to go to 1/2 of an 1/8 of an inch, which is 1/16 of an inch. So you can certainly just eyeball it, but if you wanted it to measure, get measured and be a little more precise, it's 1/16. So it's 9/16 wide, so it's just a hair over 3.5 inches, and then it's about 3 inches tall. All right, so I'm going to add a little Stampin' Seal to this piece of cardstock, and I'll stop talking. So I'm sure y'all are like, stop. Anyway, math is one of those things. I don't know. All right, so main thing I want to do is get it lined up on the left-hand edge. Oop, there we go, lining that up. And then try to get it so that it's relatively even across the top and along the edge. And then we're just going to stick it down. So that's the way I cheat all the time when I do. Anytime you see me do a scalloped edge underneath anything, I can guarantee you that I have not done the entire thing and then cut the bottom with the scalloped edge, just because I tend to make a mess when I do that. So hopefully the video is not frozen for everyone. I'm not sure. Good heavens, there we go. Okay, I think I'm back. And then we're just going to add a little Stampin' Seal to the back of this. And I'm going to bring my card base back in. And we're just going to sort of, again, eyeball it and line it up so that it's fairly even, top to bottom, about the same gap, probably a little closer to the bottom than it should be, but it's all good. So, all right, set that aside, and now we're going to do a little stamping finally. So I've got a piece of basic white cardstock and polished pink ink, and then the sentiment, the birthday sentiment from the framed Florets stamp set. So get the ink opened up and make sure I get my sentiment inked up well here. And then I'm just going to stamp it kind of generally on one side. It doesn't need to be perfect again because we're going to be die cutting it, so it doesn't matter really where it lands on the paper. Let me grab the dies here. So again, these are the framed Florets dies, and I'm going to use the smaller, if I can get my fingers under it, they're smaller of the two ovals. And I'm just going to put it around here, and I'll show you what it cuts out in a second. It cuts out a pretty oval as well as a pretty frame for the oval. So let me die cut it and I'll show you that. All right. There we go. Okay, so let's put this die back. And what you can see is it cuts out a really pretty, it's kind of a, I don't know, is it not stitched to be a dashed edge, I guess? I'm not sure. But a really pretty kind of delicate frame. And it's got a little bit of embossing in there, so hopefully you can see that. And then the center of it just cuts a regular old oval, which I think is kind of pretty as it is too. So I can set the little frame aside and use that for another project later on. And then I'm going to take my sentiment and we're going to stick it here to cover up my mess that I've got down here. So super simple. And just use some Stampin' Dimensionals. I do chop my Stampin' Dimensionals in half. If you prefer not to use the half ones, you can certainly use whole ones. Whatever your preferred dimensional is just fine. You can also use the little mini dimensionals if you prefer those. So the only thing with this card is you just want to make sure, obviously, like I said, you just want to cover up the little kind of mess that you've got here in the corner and get it stuck on there fairly straight. Ahead of time, I did a little bit of die cutting. Again, this is one of the framed florets dies, and it's just this one. And I cut a piece of soft succulent cardstock and a piece of evening evergreen cardstock with that same pretty die. And just did that ahead so you didn't have to sit and, you know, watch nothing as I die cut it again. And it's pretty boring die cutting. And then I'm going to grab a little mini glue dot, and I'm just sticking it way down here at the bottom of the little frame, because again, I'm going to have it covered here by flowers, so it doesn't necessarily matter that the glue dot is hanging out and looking all sorts of crazy. So I'm just going to take it and try to fit it a little bit around. Whoop, maybe we'll go like that with it. A little bit around the sentiment. And then same thing with my soft succulent die cut. Take that one and layer it over and kind of fit it around the sentiment as well. And stick it on there with that little glue dot. And then we're going to do a little bit more stamping. And hopefully I'm not missing it. I see the comments all of a sudden look weird, so hopefully I'm not missing anything. Hopefully nobody's commenting and I'm just missing it. All right, Evening Evergreen I've got for my ink pad. And then I've got the two flower, almost called them dies, 2 flower stamps from the Framed Florets stamp set. And we're just going to stamp them in Evening Evergreen ink on the basic white cardstock. And the second one. There we go. And then I'm going to give it just a second, maybe wave it around a little, make sure that it's dry a little bit. I love the die cut frames on the oval too. It's a beautiful, beautiful set. So, and I feel like we're desperately in need of some ovals. I find that I'm continually looking for them, and I end up having to use something else. I like ovals. I don't know. I guess I'm odd. I don't know. I prefer ovals actually to most of the other shapes. So, all right, I've got Stampin' Blends markers, which if you weren't aware, the regular Stampin' Up, the classic Stampin' pads are water-based ink, so you can use them with the Stampin' Blends markers, and they don't usually run or make a mess of any sort. So you can use it to color images that are stamped with the regular Stampin', just the regular classic Stampin' ink pads. Because the markers are alcohol-based, the two don't mix together and cause a big muddy mess. That is, I say that, and this will be wet and I'll have a big muddy mess, but we'll try it again. So as long as you let it dry, and the ink will work actually really well with your Stampin' Blends markers. Almost grabbed the wrong one. So I've got polished pink here, and that was the light Evening Evergreen that I just colored in the center of the flower with. And then I've got light polished pink that we're just going to add a little ink to the petals. And again, the main thing that I usually do is just sort of color the entire image with the light ink. Goodness, words are hard today. Stampin' Blends markers. So I use the light one to color in the image. And again, it doesn't need to be colored perfectly because you're going to be coming back and doing some blending and color lifting with it anyway. So just get a little color on there. Hey, Debbie, glad you're joining. And okay, so I'm glad I'm not the only weird oval person. I don't know why I like them better than most shapes for sentiments and things. I really like ovals. I don't know. So, all right, coming back in with the dark polished pink. And again, just coloring in down there where I think it's going to be a little bit darker down in here, kind of towards the center. Color it in, and definitely where there's like the petals are curled inward, I want to add a little bit of dark down in there. Whoop, I missed one. Here's one that's curled, and I didn't even color it. So there we go. And then I'm going to come back in with the light because these two are pretty, kind of a stark contrast in colors. So I'm going to come back in with the light and try to just blend them together a little bit. Try not to over blend, which sometimes I do. And there we go. Just getting a little bit of blending done. And sometimes I color over and blend it and then just give it a second to dry because sometimes they look a little different once everything is all dry on it. So I usually kind of try to stand back for a second and see if do I need to change anything, add any more color, blend it a little bit better. But I think the basics are looking okay on that one. So I'm going to come back in with my color lifter and just lighten a hair on some of the edges here. And then maybe just a little bit across, kind of across the centers. All right. And again, that's one of those where I put a little bit on and then I just let it sit and decide whether I love it or I don't love it. So you keep all the ovals. Yes. Yeah. And I should have. Like I said, I was regretting not having them for the past little bit because it's been a minute since we've had an oval die. So, all right. I'm hoping we get a few more. So, all right. Go coloring in the other flower here. Again, the same thing, just starting with the light and getting the ink on the flower. And then coming back in with the dark. And again, coloring in down towards the center and along the edges of the leaf where I envisioned that it would be a little bit darker. And there we go. We're getting most of it done here. Maybe a little bit more there. And then come back in with my light and do a little bit of blending along the edges of it. And then we'll die cut them and it'll be done. So, all right. Maybe a little bit more. Looks like I missed a little spot there. And I think we're good. I'm probably going to use a little color lifter on this as well, just because I did it on the other one and try to make it look a little consistent. So again, I'm just barely touching it and kind of just running it around the edges where I think it would be a little lighter, closer to the light source. That's kind of my idea. When I was looking at it, that was what I was assuming. So, all right, there we go. We got those colored. Now I'm going to grab the coordinating dies. So we've got this die that cuts out this little flower and this die that cuts out this little flower. Maybe. I know it does. I just will have to spin it around here a second. Hopefully I didn't already go past it. There we go. Ta-da! Finally. Hey, Kay, thanks for joining. All right, so I'm going to run this through the die cutting machine, so I'll be back in 1 second. And I'll try not to whack the table with my knee this time. It's a beautiful day here in New Jersey. We've got sunny skies. It's a little cooler, definitely getting to be fall here, which is my favorite time of year, so I will not complain at all. I love the weather a little cooler. I think our high was supposed to be about 55 today, which is perfect for me. So, all right, get these die cut flowers off here. Put my dies back on my magnetic sheet before I completely lose track of those. So, oh, thanks, Kay. I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to grab glue dots. Here they are. And we're just going to stick the little die cut flowers on. So I'm going to take the smaller one first and tuck it here over the top of my other two little die cuts. And then the larger one, I may put two of them actually on the back of the larger one just to make sure that it stays stuck down well. Ooh, got a little close to the edge on that one. So, and then just kind of spin it around until I think it looks all right. I'm trying to decide which way around I should go with it. That looks upside down to me. I think maybe we'll just do that. It shouldn't be so hard for me to figure out which way I want to stick it on, but it is. All right, so there we go. Got that one stuck down with a couple little glue dots. The final thing for the card front is to add a couple of the opal rounds. These are the in color 2021 to 2023 opal rounds, and obviously they come in polished pink because that's one of the in colors. And just going to tuck in a couple of little opal rounds here around the pretty die cuts, maybe if it doesn't stick to my fingers. There we go. Tuck that one in here, tuck this one in here. And I know there's supposed to be a rule of threes, but for whatever reason, I'm kind of leaning towards a rule of twos lately. I've been doing a lot of pairs as opposed to threes. So if you like three, you can certainly grab a third one and stick it on, but I prefer the twos, so I'm leaving it at that. So, all right. On the inside of the card, also kept it pretty simple. I've got a piece of basic white cardstock and a quick little Celebrate sentiment, which is a pretty easy one, and Evening Evergreen ink. Oh, I'm glad y'all are liking the card. Like I said, the paper and the dies are doing all the work. I just sort of put them together, and so it's very, very easy. This is a quick card. So, all right. Got that stamped in Evening Evergreen, and then I have a little piece of the coordinating designer series paper that I trimmed off when I was doing the card front. And this is about 1/2 inch wide, and I don't know, it's about 4 1/4 right now. We'll trim that down here as I get it stuck on the card front. I usually leave it a little bit oversized just in case I have cut the cardstock wrong, which I do. Sometimes I get either a little more or a little less on the cardstock when I'm cutting it for the inside of my card. And so I usually just will leave this as a little extra because you can always trim it off. It's a little harder to add on. So, all right, I'm going to take that and trim off the excess here. There we go. And then grab a little Stampin' seal and run it around the back of the cardstock. And this is cut to about 4 by 5 1/4. And all the measurements and details will be on my blog tomorrow, which is stampwithamyk.com. And I will link up the blog post as soon as it goes live around 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And I'll close this up. So you'll be able to find all the details if you want to go back and take a peek or figure out what I used, colors or sizes or anything like that. Come on back tomorrow. So, and again, I will be sharing it all on my blog, so feel free to stop over. I also do written PDF tutorials that you can print out. So if that's easier for you than watching a video or reading my blog post, you've got a PDF tutorial on it as well. All right, well, it is a great sweet collection of products. So definitely one that everybody should get because you're going to love it. Beautiful designer paper, beautiful images, beautiful sentiments. So it's very pretty. Just get it. So again, it's available now for demonstrators to order, and it will be available starting November 1st for customers to order. Let me know if you have any questions. I will plan to be back next week, Tuesday, out on Facebook Live. On Friday, I'm actually flying to Atlanta to do a little team retreat, so I'll be out of town for the weekend. So I will plan to see you all back here next week, Tuesday. Thanks again, and we'll chat soon.